Hello, everyone. Today's topic on Let's Talk About Distance Learning is going to be all about communication. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about communication because it's so vitally important as we start to build relationships with our students. And it's very easy to actually build those relationships, even in a distance learning classroom. So I wanted to go through a few steps, a few ideas, a few thoughts on communication. The first one being that I think one thing we all have to realize is that when we're teaching, we can't really get to that. I love this statement. You can't really get to the Bloom stuff until you take care of the Maslow stuff. So one thing I think communication allows us to do is actually take care of some of the very basic hierarchy of needs that Maslow outlined for us. Some of that being the psychological and the security part of it, as well as the belonging. So keep in mind as we start going through some of these different topics for communication, just because they're in distance learning doesn't mean, number one, they don't want that relationship with you. Number two, they don't want that relationship with their own friends. So you want to try to figure out a way to have that balance between the content and the relationships. And online, you can use a lot of tools to help build those relationships. So let's start talking about a few concepts to keep in mind when you're communicating about during distance learning. So we're going to go over these 5 different concepts, and we're going to have a couple of ideas and thoughts that I'm going to share with you. But let's just I'm going to, excuse me for a moment, read through these with you to just say we want to look at establishing a consistent communication procedures. We want to provide parents and guardians and students with tutorials and quick tips. We want to provide quick video announcements with coursework and assignments. We want to create organized weekly assignments for our students. And we want to establish procedures. We want to be consistent with your links, your expectations, and your assignments. And we're going to dig into these a little bit more as we go through the remainder of this webinar. But I think if you look at all of these concepts to use for distance learning, if we took distance learning out, these would still be great concepts and great things to use when we're communicating with our families in a regular face-to-face classroom or setting. So let's start looking at establishing consistent communication procedures. So one thing I think is very important is, and we know this just from being teachers, is that it's important to actually communicate with our parents and our guardians. It's in distance learning, we're going to have that extra connection of how are you communicating with your students? Because in a face-to-face classroom, we know how we communicate with them. So a lot of this in West Baton Rouge can be done through OnCourse Connect. We're going to go through a few examples here shortly, as well as take advantage of videos. We've got several options of choices, but one thing I want you to keep in mind is sort of like what's written there in the blue. Even though we're in distance learning, does not mean we have to sacrifice our relationships with our families, with our students, with our community. We can still have them feel as though they're part of our school community by sharing the calendars with them, by sharing our newsletters, by sharing our announcements with them. Also, don't forget to start your lessons with hoorays and accomplishments. These students at home are still accomplishing great things at hard feats for some of them. So I think it's important that we are always looking at our hoorays and our accomplishments of our students, no matter what the venue of the information is. And make sure that your families know where to find all your communication information. I think the biggest word up here in this concept is consistent. Don't keep changing your links. If you started using one way to communicate, keep that way with them. You can still make your cute Bitmojis and different things like that, but don't make it so difficult that it confuses the actual parents. Make sure that it's clear, concise, and laid out. So those procedures are going to be very, very important with distance learning. So here are a couple of examples from OnCourse Connect. One thing, all of the students are broken down into different cohorts. So that's going to allow you to know what student is going to, maybe if you're at a middle and high school, if they're going to be Monday or Wednesday or Tuesday or Thursday, the black squad, the blue squad. We've got several names that are around the district that are being used, but it also, that cohort is going to show up in OnCourse for you. So then you can start to log your communications with your families through OnCourse. And it will also allow you to send emails and communication and announcements directly to your students and your parents through OnCourse. So one way is the student contact log, which I think is fantastic. It allows you to actually create a new message. You can see you're in classroom here, and then under classes, the classes and groups tab, you're going to go under actions and start a new message. You can also, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, you can block messaging where your students can't message each other. You can allow messaging. You also can log all of your contacts. There is also a bunch of quick tips laid out for you about this that Stephanie has done a fantastic job on, contacting the guardians, how to do it, with a lot of step-by-step directions for you in there. There's also connecting through the messages itself through OnCourse Connect. The one thing, we have a lot of parents that are getting on OnCourse Connect because we sent out those that information to them. So if they're actually checking their app every day and checking their messages, they'll be able to get these messages from you. So if you establish that as one of your procedures, then they'll know where that information is coming from. So here's an example of the student contact log. Notice that you can send your messages to an entire class, to several students, or just to one student. I like how it provides all the information for you. You can also maybe include guidance counselors on information that you need to when you're actually sending the message. So you can actually include your colleagues on these messages so that they know what's going on, or your principal. So once you access this feature either through the gradebook or on OnCourse Classroom, notice what it's going to allow you to do. You pick your students here. It allows you to give the information of contact. I also love this in case you're wondering how the kids are actually accessing your distance learning classes, and you can make some notes and look down here. This is where you can notify your other staff members about this entry on this contact record. So it's a great way to keep all of your information and all of your contact information in one centralized location. You can even filter out to see how many days has it been since you've contacted a student. So in this is an example of, you can put in for your students, how long has it been? Has it been 1 day, 2 days, 4 days? What kind of contact have you had? Have they answered back? Any of that type of information. And you can do a quick report and filter and that information out for you. The other thing which is new in OnCourse, which I think is fantastic inside of the classroom, you can now block students from messaging each other within the actual classroom from OnCourse Connect, but they can still message you. So just by blocking them amongst each other does not eliminate the fact that you can't message and they can't message you back and forth. Plus, it also is going to keep a record of that communication, which is a lot better than just having emails or a remind or a text or something like that, because you have the actual conversation and you have actually what you were discussing with those students. And so you have a record of that right here already in our student information system. So these are some great options that OnCourse provides for us in West Baton Rouge Parish. This is another one that I absolutely love. This is a classroom assessment option that's been added. And for example, the kids, you might give them a picture or something, and then they can record their own voice straight into OnCourse Connect. And then this would allow you to actually have an audio recording, maybe of them reading a book or reading something else. And actually, it's just set up through Classroom and the Classroom assessment option. And then one of the other things is OnCourse for absences. You have to take attendance for distance learning students once a day. So you can establish that the students are going to log into OnCourse Connect with their username and password, and what they'll see is, am I absent today or am I present? Then what's great about it, it's going to automatically go into the attendance section of OnCourse, and principals or secretaries can actually go in and make those corrections as they need to. If maybe a kid said they were present but really was not present, those can still be actually corrected in the attendance, and the office can fix it as well. So let's look at number 2. Our next concept is providing your parents and guardians and students with tutorials and quick tips. So a lot of us think just because the students are younger, they're digital natives, that they know all about technology, and that's just not true. Also, our parents don't necessarily know a whole lot about all of technology. So one thing the tech department has been doing is trying to create or link as many of these tutorials as we possibly can under our one-to-one program. So if you actually would go to our website and look at the one-to-one program section, there's a lot of information on here. We are going to start adding information about our Galaxy tablets, actually probably tomorrow. They'll be included in here, but notice it's got information on just regular general precautions and care on here. We have carrying your Chromebook, but one of the most important ones is right here, general Google information. So if you look in your general Google information, there are parent guides for Classroom. There's guides for the different Google tools, Google Meet, some more information for your teacher, for your parents on Classroom videos and on accessibility. And here's one of our new favorite ones is this tech toolkit from Google. So if you go into the Google Meet one, it's going to take you to YouTube with, pause this, with a whole bunch of toolkit options for Google Meet, accessibility, security. These are all produced by Google and are really a great resource for our parents. So as we get more items, we'll continue to link those items here. And on here, also, these are the general Google links. And, we also have just general information on how to log on to OnCourse. That is actually on our website as well. It's not letting me get to it, so let me show it to you this way. So parents and students can just go to the website, and then they can scroll down, and they can look for OnCourse Connect directions for parents, and it'll show them how to get into OnCourse Connect. So you can actually send them straight to this URL or download this PDF and send your parents so that they can have some information on OnCourse. Another great idea that I love is Flipgrid. Flipgrid is great for not only educators, administrators, and students to use, but you also could use that for announcements for your families, which will make very, very short videos. You can have them also communicate back and forth with you on it. The other thing that I love is this new thing that Flipgrid has where it allows teachers to make really quick tutorials about what they're working on using Flipgrid, which I might add is completely free. All you have to do is set up your account, and notice what you can do is gives you all the different quick steps on how to do it, how to navigate to your charts, how to build them out so that you can maybe show them how to use an app, how to do your different items and that you want them to do, have them actually make videos about your announcements. Flipgrid is great for that. This blog is a great link for the charts. Or you can actually just go through and actually build your Flipgrid boards for your parents with science announcements, ELA announcements, math announcements, however you want to have that set up. The other thing is which kind of leads from where we were just at, another concept tip is to provide quick video announcements and coursework and assignments. Flipgrid and Screencastify are great for that. In West Baton Rouge, all you have to do is download your Screencastify app and log in with your Google login, your WBR account, and you have a full free account for parents and for teachers and students. And here's the other thing that I want to kind of just stress to you. Remember, your videos do not have to be all professional with things flying in and backgrounds and everything else. Just record your video. If you make a few ums and uhs, or you make a little mistake on a word, it's okay. You don't have to re-record it and make it perfect. We're not actually trying to have an Academy Award nominated announcement. All you're trying to do is exactly what you do in your classroom every day, is provide information and contact information for your parents. And that's really all the parents are looking for. That's how our relationships are built. The fourth concept to kind of think about is to be able to create and organize your weekly assignments for your students. So we've gone over this. I've got a couple of more slides on here I'm going to show you in a minute, but we have an entire Let's Talk About Distance Learning webinar on organization. It is included here in a few minutes, but a simple list right here is what you need to be providing for your kids. What do they need to do? What are their tasks? When is it due? That's a simple communication for students and a simple communication for parents to know. So here's a few more snazzy ways from Slides Mania, which I absolutely love and adore, that you can actually make more sophisticated actual planners for your kids for the week. And if you go back and look, we have links for student planners for them to do, for unit and topics, and all of that was covered in a previous distance learning webinar. Here's the links to all of that. If you click here, you can find that slide deck with the links to a bunch of resources. Here's the actual video webinar. This is our link for our help desk for West Baton Rouge teachers only. If you have a tech problem or something you need to talk to us about, this is for ed tech only. So this would be for Stephanie and me. If you would like to talk to us and ask a question, you would put that here. Any work orders still go on our regular work order system. And also, this is a great resource here. It's a remote learning checklist from Ditch your textbook, and it helps you give some ideas about communicating, making your instruction, kind of what we talked about at the beginning, finding that Maslow before you find the Blooms. So kind of keep those things in mind as a possibility of things to look at to help you get organized, as well as to help you figure out ways to communicate with parents. So the last big concept is establishing procedures. One thing that is extremely important in distance learning is you have to be consistent. Be consistent with your leaks, your expectations, and your assignments. You need to establish some etiquette. So that way, maybe a sign that you hold up that says mute yourself, so that all the kids know it's time to mute. Also, just simple things of not talking over each other, when you might want them to turn off the video in case you're trying to do something that might be a bandwidth hog and you don't want to lose some of your students. So by establishing all of these links, these expectations, I think that's going to help make things a little bit easier on you. Also, it'll be easier on your kids, and you'll be able to spend time with them on the pure content and not on making sure they get all of these little bitty small things done and everything else. Also, think about it this way. When you're establishing those procedures, if you're about to teach them something, flip that classroom. Show them, have them have a video that they have to watch before they meet with you online. And then you have your time spent actually teaching and reviewing that content with your students. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in next week's topic, which is on let's talk about distance learning engagement. So we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. But from now on, from this point on, if you have any other questions, as always, you can reach out to us. I'm hoping that some of these ideas for communication will help you. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind about this communication is, even though you're in distance learning, you need to build those relationships. You need to make sure your students feel secure, and you need to know that they feel safe. Once you get that established, then the content will come, because you are great teachers and you will make sure that that content gets across to to your students, excuse me. So stay strong. Y'all are doing a great job. Hang in there. It's, the old saying, Rome was not built in a day. So successful distance learning is not going to be built in one lesson or two lessons. So reach out if you have any questions, and please let us know how we can help you. Thank you.